so we're live on Facebook. Right, just gonna do a little bit of sound check here. Just gonna play around with things. If you are tuned into the sound check, well, do a little bit of sound check here. Sounded pretty good on my phone. Just gonna play around with things. If you are, I'll turn my phone down so I don't have to listen to that. So I just want to know, Cynthia, as a guest, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good volume?
Yes, your volume is good.
Sweet. All right. Well, we'll be with you folks in 11 minutes. So grab yourself a cold glass of water or a hot cup of coffee. Oh, it's like, what is that? That's Ken.
That's it. I'm here. I learned.
Were you cracking a cold one there, Ken?
it's like you're cracking a cold beer. So Ken, we're just doing a live audio sound check. So if you got any questions, you're live on the air basically right now.
Second, I'm untangling something right
That's
now.
all right. I'll turn my gain down a bit. That was a bit loud. So this is the part of the show that people don't always get to experience. It's like when I'm setting up a guest here, and I got to get the audio going, and I'll just turn Ken off for the time being. You just put your hand in the air when you want to speak, Ken. I'm just busy working on something here. Okay, Kenneth.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay. I'm just going to shut your volume off. We go live in 10 minutes. And
Okay.
Got about a 5-minute intro. So you got a little bit of time. Get yourself a cold beverage or
I got one.
Or whatever you like.
She offered me I just offered a taco, and I said, no, I'll wait till after this show is over.
There you go.
All right.
All right, so that's all cool. All right. If you are listening right now and you're just kind of getting set up and you're joining us tonight, we are only going live tonight to Espresso Shots Live and to YouTube. So if you want to interact with us, you have to go to that Facebook channel specifically tonight, or you have to go to YouTube, one of the two. And if you're a real hipster and you're following on Twitch tonight, Harrison will follow along on Twitch, and if there are any comments, he'll let us know. He'll message me because he's a good kid, and that's what he does. So he's following on Twitch.
So do you have YouTube on your phone?
I don't, but I can pull that up.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll pull that up when we get rolling.
I'm just going to watch the comments under Espresso Shots Live.
All right, I'll do the make sure YouTube is up and running here tonight. And it is. So, so what we'll do is questions, comments, we'll come back to them after we're good to do that. So. All right. Yeah. So I'm again. If you are tuned in a bit earlier and you're here, or if you're watching this later on, Cynthia is following on Espresso Shots, Westport. I got Westport on my mind this week for some reason.
So Espresso Shots Westport is where I'm following.
Right. And I am following along on Espresso Shot Westport YouTube. So, and we get a lot of people that watch YouTube after the fact. Not a lot of live viewers, but if you are watching live, or you haven't subscribed to that Espresso Shot Westport page yet, we have 152 subscribers. Hop on board, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell there, and you'll be reminded when we do go live if you do want to join us. So, what's the matter, Cynthia?
So I'm hearing two different audio mixes. It might be because I'm watching on Vimeo and Facebook. Maybe I'll turn off my one Facebook page and just follow on my phone. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
catching two audios for some reason.
I could.
Let me see if that fixes it. Yeah, I turned off the Facebook page on my laptop, and I will just follow on my iPhone.
Okay.
For Espresso Shots live.
Gotcha.
Confusing. I was hearing two sets of video, two sets of audio. It's very confusing.
Hey, I hear ya. I hear ya. I have to speak quietly tonight because everything's so cranked in here. It's loud. All right, we're gonna turn the volume down. That's all the technical jargon you're gonna hear tonight. When we come back, we'll be live.
Espresso Shots Live podcast is not and should not be viewed as a news source. While I often discuss current events and cite sources that are both conventional and unconventional, once again, the views expressed on this show are that of one man, myself, and the guests that join me. This show is primarily designed for entertainment. Enjoy.
I don't know that anybody's selling out. I think if anything, maybe they're buying in a little bit. Hey man, we might not be everyone's cup of tea, but somebody wants a good cup of tea.
All right, and welcome to Express Shots Live. We've got a great show set up for you tonight. We're going to talk business in Westport, and we have a few great flannelists with us tonight, and I'll tell you who they are in a moment. But before we do that, we are only broadcasting tonight to Espresso Shots Westport Facebook page and to the Espresso Shot Westport YouTube channel. So if you're watching those channels, you're seeing us, Cynthia will follow comments on the Facebook page. I will follow comments on the YouTube page. We won't respond right away to those comments, but we'll come back to them. So if you have a comment in there that's relevant, we'll come back to it and we'll try to address any of those comments if there are any tonight. So, y'all ready there, Cynthia?
Ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll. Quite an exciting week. I think maybe what we should do is, I know we got our guests ready to chomp at the bit, so maybe we'll just roll the intro for the show, and then we'll pull our guests into the show. I gotta try to find a way to take you out of there. Let's do it.
All right, this is Casey Ferguson of The Casey Ferguson Show, and you're listening to the Flannel Panel, watching the Flannel Panel, doing everything to the Flannel Panel. Well, you better not be doing that.
All right, welcome back to the Flannel Panel. Let's pull our guests in here tonight. Make sure I got everybody lined up here. I got to get myself into this shot here. Let's see, where am I? I'll get myself added here. You think I would have all this done beforehand, and I was trying to. I just didn't get around to doing here. There we go. All right.
You're there, and Neil is your backdrop.
Neil's my backdrop, eh? All right. Well, let's.
I hope you're enjoying tonight's Flannel Panel. I'm Cynthia from Champlain Lake. Life is Good Store, located in beautiful downtown Westport, Ontario. We are really excited to announce that we will be having our annual Super Duper sale again this year.
We're gonna stop.
It will be on Super Bowl Sunday,
Boy, man.
February 13th.
This way, tune in live
This year,
because
to
there's
adhere
so
to
many
all
things
health and
happening
safety
tonight.
regulations. We are doing.
We'll shut that off for a second. So I'm sorry about that, guys. I just had to add a last moment guest into things here. There we go. All right, we are here. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing well, John.
Doing well. I got Cynthia with me tonight, and I normally don't have a live guest with me in the studio, so you might hear a bit of reverb. But we have with us Neil Kodryko tonight. Thanks for joining us, Neil.
Thanks, John. If I'm lagging a little bit, it might be the wireless internet, but we'll do our best.
No worries. I watch CBC and they lag on that show sometimes. So this is only a local show, so I'm not too worried about it, Neil. Thanks again for joining us. And just below Neil, we have Ken. Ken's a little bit dark. He's in the dark tonight. I think he's hiding a little bit.
Wait, and my face could be on the light. You want me to do that? It'll only
No,
take a few minutes.
You are just
It'll
fine.
take a few seconds.
A few
Okay.
seconds. I think we're fine.
I
And
look
down-
better this way.
You
Sort
look
of
better
Marilyn
that way?
Monroe-ish.
Gotcha. And just
fog.
down below us, we have Cynthia on the bottom panel. She's helping me moderate tonight. And if you want to talk to her, she's here as well. So let's get this show going. The Flannel panel, small conversations or big conversations at a street level. So let's talk about business in Westport, because there's a lot of things changing. I've been around here for a few years, nowhere near as long as Ken or Neil, but I've seen a lot of changes, particularly in the last year and a half. So, and I'm sure you guys would agree, we look at some of the businesses always kind of come and go and change, and there's always that mix. But when some of the bigger businesses leave, like the Bateman House or a part of the Village Green, Cottage Country, those are big businesses that have been around a long time. And so my thoughts are, what's really going on? So let's start off with Neil. Neil, what's your opinion right now with what's happening in the downtown section of Westport from a business point of view? Any thoughts?
Well, John, I think that it's an obvious question to ask, and if you're just walking around town and you know the businesses, but you don't know the people or the families behind them, you might not know exactly where they are in their stage of business. And succession planning is something that every business owner has to think about and look forward, to the future and say, how is my business going to continue? Am I going to just shut it down? Am I going to sell it? Do I have a family member that wants to take it over? And so for every family, that's different. In our family, in 2010, my wife Martha and I took the grocery store over, and we had already started Rosie Yumski's at that time in 2007. So we had a pretty well-defined succession plan that we actually started in 2005 and finally finished up with, Martha and I buying out the store in 2010. Some of those other businesses are at different stages. Ken has found buyers for his two businesses, and with those, we look forward to seeing those people, grow those businesses and continue those businesses. Bateman House, similar situation where they decided that based on the challenges being faced by their industry right now, that when the leases came up and they didn't own their real estate, that it made more sense just to shut it down. And then we'll see other businesses where owners are getting towards the end of their careers, and they're going to have to make some decisions about the future of theirs as well. So these are all just natural processes that we see, nothing super drastic, but we would hope that people are thinking about how they're going to see their businesses continue into the future, or what they're going to do with those spaces.
Yeah. Same question to you, Ken. How do you see what's happening in Westport right now? How do you view it?
Well, I see tremendous potential. I don't see a negative side at all to what's happening in the village. I think I've never seen Westport grow as fast and have the influence of new businesses like the winery, like the brewery. The stores, whatever stores there are, seem strong. They're interesting. They're unique. I mean, we always have a problem with seasons. Seasonal, I shouldn't say seasons, because that is a business, but in town. But that's the what people see. I think when you're an owner, you have to realize that there's going to be struggles in that period where things are quieter, and you have to do business in the manner that, knowing that you have to pull in the reins at that period of time. But I see tremendous potential. I don't see any negative with Bateman closing and Cottage Country. I think, as we saw, Seasons moved into there, and somebody will move into Bateman House, into that building too eventually.
So, Ken, you just see it as a game of volleyball where people are just changing positions and businesses are moving around. Now, you mentioned
Yep.
the winery, you mentioned the brew pub, you mentioned businesses that are an experience business. When you come to Westport, you want to have a meal and experience the village. But what about retail itself? Is retail something that still has a home in the village of Westport, in your opinion? Or Ken, do you think we're moving more towards more of an experience destination?
I think part of the experience of visiting Westport is the shopping. It is definitely a thing that people like to do. They like to come for the day. They like to come and walk the streets, have a meal. The variety is important, and the prestigious nature of a winery, I think, has really changed the village. It used to be that you never saw really fancy cars, in town. You saw old cars, we saw motorcycles, but you go up to the brewery nowadays and you see the Teslas, the Jaguars, the BMWs. Also, with the change in the real estate values, the change in people coming from the urban areas and moving here permanently, the permanent houses, I think it's all positive. I know my businesses grew. They didn't remain stagnant. They grew. And I know the people I sold them to, they're doing fine. So I know what you're saying about online, but I think when people come to Westport, they come specifically to spend the day. And I think if we offer them exciting shopping, they will. They'll go into each store in the summer. In the winter, they go to the stores specifically that they want to see. They don't walk around very much.
Right. Perfect. Neil, I guess same kind of question. I mean, like Ken says, it's evolving, and the people that are moving here are changing. And like you mentioned earlier, you used to know everybody on the street by name. There's a lot of new people in the area. Now you're in a different position, Neil. You're full time, open all year round, so you see a lot of people coming in. So you're probably seeing a lot of new people in the grocery store as well. So do you think the clientele is changing for you?
No question. We're seeing lots of new builds. I think there's, I count them just top of my head, there's about 9 new builds going up between Westport and Newborough right now. That's on top of all the development going on at Watercolor. So there's a lot of new people coming to the community, and that's taking some of the pressure off of the seasonality of running our businesses. We used to, at the grocery store, see our business more than triple our sales from our quietest week in the winter to the busiest week in the summertime. And that gap is getting smaller now. We're seeing busier winters. The last couple of years, the summer hasn't been quite as good because the border's been closed, and so some people haven't been able to come up to their cottages. But we've seen more year-round business in those shoulder seasons. And I don't think it's just a matter of snowbirds that aren't going away. Certainly there's a little bit of that, but we are seeing more year-round permanent residents here in the community as well. And that definitely is going to make it better for local businesses, to create more sustainable year-round jobs for people as well, as opposed to the hiring and laying off cycle that a lot of businesses were always faced with every year. So it has been good. It's provided a lot of opportunities with these new builds. People are getting into new homes and looking to set up their homes. So we've had a very good last couple of years at Rosie Umsky's, our 2 best years that we ever had there. And we've been approved by the village to expand our footprint there as well. So we're well poised, I think, for success in the long term, and to be in a position to continue to invest in the community, in our businesses, giving people better shopping opportunities and creating better jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, I often wonder, is Westport struggling a little bit or not? And are the heritage businesses that have kept Westport uh, the way it was for so long evolving? When you look at, I know a large restaurant in town is currently for sale. I know there's another staple business in town that's for sale. There's a building beside Cynthia's building that is for sale. So there's a lot of changes happening right now, jockeying for position, if you will. We have a cannabis shop coming into the neighborhood, which brings a different kind of feel to the downtown core. Um, what do you kind of, Neil? What do you kind of predict the village is going to look like in 5 years from now? Is it going to look the same? We're going to walk down, are we going to see the same peoples, the same businesses, or is it going to have a new face?
No, I think retail is something that has always evolved in Westport. There's always been turnover, and that's what's kept it interesting and giving people compelling reasons to come back and see what's new. Obviously, the main point of discussion for a lot of people is like, look at the Village Green. It's such a large space, and Stan and Kathy have been in business longer than my family in Westport, so they're going on about 35 years now. They've been in business, and I'm not sure what their future plans are, but even if they got to the point where they decided to move on and the building was there, something will happen with that. And we saw that probably about 20 years ago in Port Perry. Settlement Shops was a similar size store to the Village Green, large store, housewares, decorating, beautiful store, well known, often covered in a lot of the trade magazines for the gift industry. At the end of the day, that business, the way that it existed, did not continue on in the same form. It was a large stretch of storefronts, and they got split up into a bunch of smaller stores. And so that created a whole bunch of opportunities for creativity and a variety of different product offerings. So, there will always be opportunities there. I think that the opportunity currently is being presented by being able to offer more of a year-round local clientele, as well as just the tourism that we've traditionally relied on. Rosa Yumski's is open 7 days a week, year-round. We're having great days on Mondays. We're having great days on Tuesdays right now in January and February. We haven't seen any need to close. They're not necessarily our most profitable days, but we're able to cover our cost of operating even on the quieter days in the wintertime at Rosie's, which is wonderful. Compared to where we started out 14 years ago, it's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, no, for sure it is, Neil. And Ken, so you're a little bit different. You're on the other side of the business spectrum now. You've kind of retired at some level. You're still involved in things, but from a business point of view, what do you see happening here? Do you agree with Neil that it's just evolving and changing? And
I think he's exactly right. I mean, when you think about the situation, let's say with Ingers, where this is, or Steve's, this is businesses that the owners are getting older, like Village Green. And yes, there's going to be change, but it won't be change because they haven't made money in the past or presently. It's a lifestyle change, like I did.
Yeah.
I didn't sell the businesses because they weren't doing well. I sold it because, at some time, you just have to simplify one's life. I didn't have a child who wanted to take over the businesses. It'll be the same thing with the Village Green, possibly. I don't want to speak for them, but at one time they'll have to decide, do they want to keep it in the family? And if they close it, it'll be a challenge at first for Westport if no one does anything with it. But the entrepreneurial spirit is always there, and it is a central business. Anybody who is an entrepreneur and wants to roll the dice, that would be a very good investment on any level, whether you want to put a big store in there or whether you wanted to cut it up or if you wanted to make it into apartments. I mean, it is a very good location. So I don't think we have to worry about what's going to happen there. You know,
Okay.
I was started here when there was only a few boutique or retail stores that were, you know, there was the Sears store. It was a whole different type of, it was local shopping. It
Yeah.
wasn't people coming from Ottawa, from Brockville, from, you know, outside the region. But now there's a whole different feeling about Westport. Westport has become a very magical place with very good PR. And it's to the credit of the stores who, you know, are very interesting and unique. And they're not the chains you see in the malls. You're not necessarily what you get online. And it's
Yeah.
also things like you guys. And I'm not trying to blow smoke or anything, but having things like West Porch, having the pumpkin thing, having the music festival. These are all things that make it exciting place, and the natural beauty coming in breathtaking no matter how you come in from Perth or from Kingston. It's a unique, wonderful place. And we know it, the people who live here, and I think so many other people, the word of mouth of Westport is always positive.
Yeah. So I heard an article on CBC today, and they were talking about vending machines and what a growth vending machines have taken on because they're so much better. The technology is so much better. You can get a fresh piece of cake out of a vending machine. You can get your nails done out of it. These are things that you can get now, and their thought, and you're laughing, Ken, but their thought was a lot of consumers from COVID have learned not to want to have an interaction with people. They just want to get in, be left alone, and get out. And those vending machines are kind of filling that need where people don't want that interaction anymore. After 2.5 years, going on 3.5 years, we don't even know how to interact. We're so used to interacting with our eyes because we're wearing a face mask. So, do you think Westport is positioned well when people do come back and maybe the mask mandates are no longer required? Do you think that we're still positioned well? And I'll throw that at Neil. Because Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we've just rolled with it. We've made investments when we've had to. You know, we have full online shopping available now. Did I think I would have that eventually? Sure. Did I think I would have it in 2020? No, absolutely not. You know, and so we just had to pivot. We just had to respond to what the needs were of the consumer. And yeah, it wasn't without considerable expense. And we bought a refrigerated van for doing home deliveries. And tomorrow I'll be delivering to Athens a couple of orders. Every other week I drive to Athens and deliver groceries to 2 customers. They're sizable orders. It's worth my time. But they're loyal customers, and I'm filling a niche. And so, vending machines, I think in the city, where you've got high amounts of traffic, sure, that makes sense. And if you're at subway stations or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But here, we just find a way to meet the customer's needs, whether it's picking up we'll take an order online. We have a web form. We'll take an email. You can call us on the phone. You can hand us a note at the door. And excuse my cats jumped up here. And you can give us a note at the door, and we'll pick your order and get it to you.
Yeah.
So and I think that's the great thing about Westport is that our businesses are small enough. The CEO is normally in the store, and my philosophy in business has always been, if people want to give you money, don't make it complicated.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that Westport is moving towards the vending machine format. Hey, kitty cat. But what I'm kind of suggesting,
she's a pause rescue.
oh, there you go.
Ken.
But what I'm
Yeah.
suggesting is that I think if the mentality of a lot of people in bigger cities is that they don't want interaction going into businesses, but Westport does that so well. When you walk into Kadrinko's, Jake by the Lake, Cynthia down in the bottom corner, Lake Effects, those businesses, that's just what we do. we go out of our way to have an interaction, and hopefully the byproduct is a sale of some products and some return customers, and so that's that. Ken, agree or not? I mean, that's the business, right?
No, I wasn't laughing at what you were saying. I was laughing at the image of somebody putting their hands in the machine to get a manicure, and I was thinking about that. I forget what the movie was where the guy puts his hand into. It was one of the old classic actors, and he puts it into this stone hole. It's a famous place, I think in Italy or somewhere. And he puts it in and he starts screaming, right? And the actress behind him, goes, ah! And it's complete. And that was the image I had of somebody putting their hand. It's so. I really believe that yes, COVID will change us in some ways, but I think when things open up, I have no problem going back to normal. And it may be a new normal, but people want to go into stores. It's part of a lot of people's therapy, shopping therapy. I have no fears about this. I think we just need to survive the COVID, adapt. I will say one thing, and this shows you something. The 2 stores that I sold, I had really great point of sale machines, computers that kept the inventory, etc. Both owners immediately changed to Shopify and doing their business, putting the capacity for people to buy online. So I think it's just adapting, and I know COVID has invigorated and made it so things are happening quicker.
Yeah.
Those type of.
I'm going to get Cynthia to chirp in. She's in the bottom.
I just wanted to add one thing, John. Yeah. I think that Ken is being a little bit modest because Ken made a living out of. Ken, you can hear me now. You got your earpiece back in. I say you're being modest because you made a living out of retail as theater. I mean, if you went up to Bayshore Shopping Center at Christmas time and Ken was there selling his wares, the stuff he had found and was bringing to you, and you had that personal interaction with Ken at the Bayshore Shopping Center, or if he was doing his Sandman art and doing it there right in front of you, you couldn't help but want to buy. Yeah. And so, Ken, you're just a real inspiration to anybody, and that's has been in retail and watching the way you've always done it, and you've definitely created 2 great businesses that that I think are well poised, but they're definitely you and Deborah did a great job, and good on you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You're right. It is a bit of a show when you go into businesses. You want to be able to present yourself and do that. But I want to get Cynthia to chirp in. She's not one of the guests, but she's sitting there, and I know she's was ahead with online stuff. So for her, it was just more focusing on that. So Cynthia, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
The only thing that I really wanted to say was that we really had to pivot as a business owner, and if you weren't willing to make those changes,
you can just look down here.
I know, but I'm trying to reach the mic.
Oh, gotcha.
If we didn't pivot and make those changes, I don't think we would have survived. And I think going forward, if businesses didn't make those changes, I think they're going to be left in the wind a little bit, because as much as we like to think when things come back to its new normal, that people are going to start coming out to the shops and shop, I think there's going to be a significant number of people that will carry on with ordering online.
Yeah, it's
I think Cynthia's got a unique enough product line too, and that representation in Canada for the Life is Good brand, and so great opportunity to expand and use your store to be able to sell to a much larger audience than you could possibly ever do by just having your door open. So it complements what you do. It doesn't take away from what you do.
Yep. I'm going to play a quick word from our sponsor, and then I'm going to come back and ask for your final thoughts. Here's a unique business in the village of Westport right here for you.
I hope you're enjoying tonight's flannel panel. I'm Cynthia from Jake by Lake, the Life is Good store located in beautiful downtown Westport, Ontario. We are really excited to announce that we will be having our annual Super Duper sale again this year. It will be on Super Bowl Sunday, February 13th. This year, to adhere to all health and safety regulations, we are doing by appointment. So please email us at info@jakebylake.ca for your appointment time. Now, back to the flannel panel.
Well, thank you very much, sponsor of the show. Always nice to have Jake by the Lake as a sponsor. Right on. So, final question.
Wishing you another 45 years in business, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Wishing you another 45 years in business. 100% discount.
I know, yeah. If anybody didn't catch that, the sale, we cannot call it a Super Bowl sale, but we call it a Super Duper sale, but it aligns with Super Bowl, so we try to hit those numbers, and that will probably come to an end soon. We'll probably tap out at a number.
We're leveling off at 55. So
there you go. We're tapping out at 55. Yeah. But no, if you're a Life's Good fan, it's a great way. Everything in the store is up for sale. It's not one of these bogus sales, so it's good on you, Cynthia. So last question and then final thoughts. And I'll just throw this out there, play devil's advocate a little bit. So I often wonder, I've heard it said that it's not council's responsibility to grow businesses. Their responsibilities are to make sure the sidewalks are clean, there's infrastructure here. It's not really their main job to make sure businesses are surviving. But my fear a bit is I feel sometimes that this council, and maybe all councils right now, are more focused on property values because there's a lot more revenue coming in through property values through MCAP than there is from some of the businesses. For Cottage Coffee, for example, where I lease, Steve owns that property, so he pays his commercial properties. But all I really do is create a parking problem for the municipality. I don't really generate much more revenue for them. They generate a lot more revenue from new builds and obviously property taxes. And I wonder if there's too much focus right now on development and not enough focus on the downtown Westport core. Devil's advocate, I'll start with you, Neil.
Well, if we look back to the time of amalgamation, if it wasn't for the business community, Westport wouldn't be an independent municipality. We'd be a part of Rideau Lakes. There just wasn't enough residential tax base to support, keeping the village on its own. And so for a lot of years, it's been the business community that has helped to make that happen for the village. That's also put some stressors on a lot of things in terms of how much taxes are we paying. I mean, there's certain things that the village does that, it's not like it's, every time you add a house, it's the same amount of cost goes out. There's some sunk costs that are there that don't change regardless of whether you add another 200 homes or not. So, my hope would be that, with adding on the additional properties on the other side of town, and encouraging more infill, that we're going to keep the village affordable for people, keep the cost of running the water and sewer system sustainable. All those costs are much easier to do when you've got more units than when you have less units. And certainly, with scarcity, I mean, if we're not building new units, it's only going to continue to increase the values of the properties that are here. Now, the one thing, the other side of that is, of course, we've got a lot of people who've lived here all their lives, and we want to make sure that they're not being forced out through gentrification, or just the fact that the cost of living here in the village goes up to the point where they can't afford it. So I think council needs to do two things. I think they need to make sure that they're encouraging that growth to make sure that they can cover their future responsibilities, but then they also have to consider, can people continue to afford to live here, or are we forcibly, through our policies, creating a situation where they have no choice but to sell and go elsewhere. And that's going to be really essential as the business grows, as the community grows, and our businesses do get busier. We are going to need employees. And so, council is going to have to really think about the mix of housing stock that is going to be needed in order to have housing available there that's going to be affordable and accessible by people who work here in the community. Not just retiring from the city where they've sold their home for 7 figures and are coming here, buying what seems to us to be a very expensive home, but to somebody maybe coming from Toronto, they're going, wow, this is a deal. So I think that's really the two sides of it. And I will say, I know that, Steve Rolston has caught some flack. He's building the first 30 homes. That part of the subdivision was already pre-approved from when the Derbyshires had it. He's got 30 lots available to him right now, and he has an opportunity to sell 30 homes at $650,000 to $900,000. Good on you, sell them. I think what we'll see in stage 2, once he moves over to the rice farm, will be a different mix of housing. And I think that'll be probably what we'll see happen over there on that part of the property. So let's give him some time. It's a huge investment, millions and millions of dollars that he's investing up there in infrastructure. He's got more guts than I do. I mean, that's we're looking at a big expansion of the grocery store, but nothing on to that size. So I think if we give him the time and work with him and support him, hopefully we'll get something that we're really proud of, and it's going to help the business, the community to grow in a sustainable fashion.
Yeah, no, those are great points, Neil. Ken, same question to you.
I think that the onus to develop businesses are on the businesses. I don't think the council needs to get involved. I think we need to promote ourselves. We need to create the structure or an organization that would take care of regional advertising, like the Chamber of Commerce or something like that we could work together. I think in many ways we've done it. Since the Chamber is done, we don't have that national organization. But as long as council doesn't put roadblocks in the way, like it has in the past, when Deborah opened her first 2 stores, one was Common Wonders where Tara's was, and the other was Pinecone. We had to buy 3 spaces for $12,000 before we could get a permit to open our business. So that was a tremendous burden and unfair. And council had no sympathy that, let's say, Pinecone was a property that was paying commercial taxes since it was a restaurant, and the woman who owned it, they never switched it back to resident taxes. Yeah. And yet they wouldn't consider grandfathering it, and they wanted us to cut down the trees in the backyard and put in gravel or pavement, just like the Village Green did. They did the same thing with Inger, charged her money. Yeah. So I think those are the negative things. I don't look to council to help us run our businesses. I think we can do a great job. And I know the people who are running businesses, they either do good or they don't survive. This is it's the Darwin theory. It's the Darwin theory. You guys have run businesses. They're great. They're successful. And, it's just whatever you got inside you, either you're good at it or you're not, so I believe businesses should take care of their own. And now, infrastructure of the village, etc., that's a big thing for the village. We need them to do that. Water, sewage, that's where we rely on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, great points, Ken. I mean, parking has always been an issue in the village of Westport, and council back in the day came up with a way that they thought they can generate some cash to try to help them out. You're right; it was not kind. I wouldn't. We were just coming into business and leasing, because we lease from Steve. But I've heard that story 100 times from Steve, the costs that were involved with that. But you're right, infrastructure is important. And I want to have Neil, maybe Ken, back in the show, because I do want to talk about green initiatives when we talk about infrastructure and what we have here right now and maybe what we should have. But before we do that, I'm going to go over to Cynthia to see if we have any questions or comments from the panel tonight. Oh, not from the panel, but from the guests.
Yeah, so we have a question from the community. Joel Kimmel writes, how important do you think the harbor is in order to attract more visitors to the village? Should council prioritize expanding or renovating the harbor to encourage tourism growth in Westport?
Who wants that one?
I'm happy to
I
answer
can take
that
that
one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead, Neil.
You want to go ahead first? Okay. Well, yeah, I'd say
100%.
that.
Yeah.
Let's start with Neil, and then we'll go to Ken.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I mean the harbor is definitely central to just even the image of the village or how we perceive the village, and the fact that connection to the water, to the Rideau Canal, and the Rideau Canal being a UNESCO heritage site. So we need to maintain that infrastructure. We need to make sure that that is a part of the image of the village and part of the visitor experience. And I think we need to, but I think we also need to look at it as a business as well, right? So we shouldn't just be adding docks for the sake of adding docks, but we should be continuously reassessing what the needs are on the Rideau Canal with other stakeholders, and figuring out exactly, what should we be doing. I don't think that we should be putting in a whole bunch of docks just to provide, seasonal dockage. There's lots of businesses in the area that provide that service, and that's something that's done by the private sector. And so, we shouldn't be necessarily going and competing with marinas. But we should be really focusing on the fact that it is a harbor. It is a place for people who are transient coming through the area to be able to stop with their boat and be able to access the village.
Okay. Ken?
Yeah, I think it's 100% to keep the marina, the harbor, to keep it in top-notch shape. This is a big part of Westport. I mean, I think a good percentage of the visitors go over that Rainbow Bridge. If you have guests, you go over there. It's scenic. It should be taken care of. It does generate income. So I don't think there's any reason not to focus on it and to develop it in as much as you can. Now, do you expand it? I don't think that's necessary. In my own view, I think it's fine the way it is. It seems to be viable, and hopefully it pays itself. I also know that there's grants for things, and we can look at stuff like that I don't know that much about it, but I know the Trillium group, and I know government encourages development of waterfront properties. And right. So I'm all for it. I don't think there's anything that while we were talking,
sure,
I thought that in some areas they do not privatize it, but they lease it out.
Right.
So if the village did not want to do it or is not capable of doing it, there may be a way of making just as much money and bring in a private person who pays
work,
for the docks, pays for repairs, etc.
Yeah.
So there's an alternative that I just thought of.
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily what I'm saying what I want to do, but it may be
You're
good
right,
to look
but
at.
you said earlier, Ken, there are lots of opportunities. Things are changing, and that is definitely an opportunity. Neil, can you tell me if you know, is the harbor owned by Westport or is it owned by Rideau Lakes?
It is owned by the Village of Westport. I can tell you that definitely because I was working for Joe Jordan, our MP here in Leeds Grenville at the time, when Oceans and Fisheries gave the ownership of it to the village. Now, Bob Lavoie will tell you that the island is in the township of Rideau Lakes. It is across the line, but it is actually owned by the village. It was
Okay.
one thing that had to happen is they had to upgrade the standards of the island. And actually, I was in Joe's office one day working, and it was like election time was coming, and they had money to spend. They had to get it out the door, and they said, "Do you have any federal harbors in your riding?" And I knew that the Westport Harbor was owned by Oceans and Fisheries. It was it was run by the village, but it was owned by the federal government. And so I said, yeah, Westport Harbor. And so we got, I think, $25,000 or $30,000 worth of funding out of Oceans and Fisheries to do electrical upgrades on the island to bring the standards up, so that then they could hand ownership over to the village, so that they weren't giving them something that was deficient.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is owned by the village 100%.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. We do have a comment from Bob, a different Bob, but I'll get Cynthia to read that off.
For sure. So Bob wanted to comment about Ottawa's Niagara-on-the-Lake community is now Westport, according to the Ottawa Citizen. Agree? Disagree?
Now, I never saw that article, but I've heard that. Go ahead, Ken. Are we the new Niagara on the Lake?
You know, if the media thinks so, then it must be true. You know, it's a great compliment for this little village of Westport to be thought that way. And it just shows that how the friendliness of the village, the development of the village has created a mini bit. And now with the prices going up and the houses, you know, I've never seen so much development in Westport, nor everybody who has purchased houses have it really improved it, except my own house, of course. But so I don't think it's Niagara on the Lake. That's very generous, you know, but it certainly is leaning towards really good, I'll use a hippie comment, you know, vibes. I mean, this town, when people come here, they seem to love it. They love the stores. I hear it all the time, you know, and it's nothing but positive, really. I mean, we have problems like everybody else. We have things that happen that there's arguments over or discussions. You know, you can argue about the development. Is that going to be good or bad? It's changing it. It is raising the village into a little more population. It might help us survive and do things a little better. Yeah. I'm being positive about everything because I love this village.
Sure.
You know, I came here with no
Funny.
money, and now
Go ahead,
I
Neil.
have enough to retire. Yeah.
Yeah. No, good points,
funny
Ken.
piece of trivia. Funny piece of trivia regarding Niagara on the Lake. Adri DeLotte owned the Valley Mart in Niagara on the Lake for years, and he and my dad worked together as meat cutters at the Food City in St. Catharines. So if we're the Niagara on the Lake of Ottawa, you just thank Adri and my dad, I guess.
Yeah. Perfect. Ken, you're right. It is quite a compliment because when you look at Prince Edward County, they're very well known for their farming, their culinary, and their wines, just like Niagara on the Lake is known for the same thing. Westport, again, my opinion only, has never really been known for its culinary or its farming. Even though we have those things, it's never been what we were about. We've always been about the water, cottaging, and so forth. But that is changing with, you're right, the best restaurant in town, the Cottage Coffee House, for sure. But then you have the Vineyard and you have the Brew Pub. And there are businesses that are elevating the quality and the kinds of food that you can get here. And I think that plays right into what you're saying, Ken.
Well, also, we have almost 7 days a week of entertainment in the summer, music. With the Cove, we have developing bed and breakfasts here. We have places to stay overnight, things to do during the day. We have Foley Mountain. We have swimming in so many lakes around here. This is a unique place, and people are discovering it. When it hits the Ottawa Citizen and things like that, it just shows, how well and widespread the village is known.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure a lot of people want it to be their own little secret. But as businesses, it's great. As a community, the land values, it's great. It is a problem, affordable housing and diverse housing. And I'm working on a committee right now that is looking at how we can keep Westport seniors in the village, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's assisted living, whether it's a nursing home, what's viable for the amount of people and the type of people we have. And I know Neil mentioned, we need people to work, so we have to have affordable housing also.
And Ken, you're touching on a really good point there, because a lot of these things fall on businesses. Like we're the ones doing this, but there is a huge volunteer base in Westport. Lions Club, Legion, Westport and Blooms. Yeah. All those people that do work like what you're talking about, volunteering to get these things done, and you just won an award yourself. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Well, you can see that the quality of the people must be pretty damn low for
pretty,
me to be
pretty slim pickings.
Senior Citizen of the Year, So that was a very nice thing. I think a village is made up of people. So when we have dynamic business people, when we have a culture that has always welcomed outsiders, from the first day I've ever came to Westport, when I moved here and was building a place on McAndrews Road, I was welcomed by Fetch Murphy, and I told him my name. The next time I walked in, all of a sudden I heard somebody go, Rosie, he gave me a nickname immediately and a welcoming thing. Yeah. So it was, we are a very lucky people. Our kids can grow up here safely. All of us had children here who's on this panel, and we know we couldn't have had a better, safer place for our kids to walk. We couldn't have better schools. I'm a real cheerleader for this place, and I owe a lot to it. So this is why I do look at how we can make it better. How, a lot of people say, oh, this should be done, this should be done. Well, you know what? It's only us who can do it. So I think it's our duty to step up and say, how can we make things better? I did give away free pizzas, during this pandemic. It was such a small thing to do. And yet people who got a free pizza, they were thrilled. The businesses, if they got it, it was just a small gesture that people felt good. And I think that's what it's all about, making each other feel good about where we live, how we live. And if we all do that, if we're all just cheerful. I had a little anecdote. I had an uncle who came up to visit, and he walked around the village. On his second day, he came back into the house, and he said to me, Ken, I've been walking for 10 years in my area, and this is the first time I walked around the outer perimeter of Westport, and every person I passed said, "Hello, how you doing? You know, how are you?" And he said it shocked him because he wasn't used to people looking at each other and saying hello. And that was his big thing, that in the 2 days he got there, and by the third day he was very comfortable saying hello to everyone. And I think these are little things, but my belief is it's the small things we do that add up and make people that are the big gestures and the big events in people's lives.
Yeah, I think
when I ask you and you say hello, that's very important.
I think Cynthia has that on a T-shirt. Something along those lines. But no, good point, Ken. It takes everybody. We're all ambassadors of the village, whether it's Neil, yourself, Cynthia, the volunteers of the village. We make it what it is. Final question. We're going to call it a night. Neil, you could change one or two things in the village that make business better. What would you pick? Anything? Nothing?
Oh.
Give me one.
Jeez. I really can't come up with anything. Yeah, no, we're just grateful to be here and have the opportunities. Martha and I are looking at adding another 4,000 square feet to the grocery store. I mean, that potentially might happen as early as this coming fall. I mean, that's probably going to be $1.5 million to $2 million investment. I mean, anytime that as a business person, you're confident enough in the community that you serve, that you're willing to take on that kind of risk, that kind of debt to invest in a business, invest in a community, then I think the community is a pretty nice place to be, and we're just grateful to be here.
Nice. Ken?
Yeah,
in under 1 minute?
Like any other business owner, I would say if we could expand the season somehow with a busier time, that would be a very fortuitous happening, because it is challenging to run up debt and purchases for like a retail store. It was a challenge to, my belief was to use other people's money, and we would have, $150,000 or $200,000 in debt by the time the season opened. And so that would be the one thing that I could think of. Global warming, might help, but it wouldn't help, really. But like Neil, I'm just very positive about business. I really think that, you might have to be inventive. We might, just like we're doing, you have to react to the change of what people want, what they're interested in, the technologies, etc. You have to be sharp, and that's it. People who aren't sharp, they're not going to do so good. But people who are, they'll take advantage of and I don't mean advantage in a bad way.
No.
I mean, they'll be able to meet the needs of the visitors and the people who live here, because these people need things, and we're here to give it to them, whether they're gifts or everyday items. That's one thing about Westport that's great. We have a bank, a post office, a supermarket, a LCBO, a hardware store, a lumber yard, etc. And with more people coming in and more value, these things will start to grow. And
all right,
as long as it keeps the character of a small village, that's it. And I don't see that getting big. We're not going to be 100,000 people here.
Ken, I've always said you need three things to be a business owner in Westport. You need a good attitude, a good season, and a good line of credit, and then you're golden here.
That's it.
Before we leave, Cynthia's got a comment, and then I'll thank all the guests. I appreciate your time tonight. Go ahead, Cynthia.
I have one comment to make tonight. If my dad's watching, happy 90th birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Wow. Okay, we're going to leave you tonight with the weather. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Cynthia. Thanks,
Pleasure.
everybody watching. Tune in next week to the Flannel Panel, and we'll talk about something else. Take care, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good Wednesday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Happy McSunny, and I'm reporting to you live for the Westport and the Rideau Lakes area. The weather over the next few days, we're going to get some snow tonight and all day Thursday, and then we're going to see the temperatures drop again on the weekend and some sunshine. We're going to be at, in the minus teens. And if you shop small, shop with a small business, because you know why? When you shop from a small business owner, they do a little happy dance. Now, to the Flannel Panel.